Oh, hello, long-suffering listeners. This is Michael J. Nelson here. This is 372 pages we'll never get back. I am, of course, joined by Connor Listoka. Connor, what a exciting day.
It is, yeah. It's like if you've ever taken a vacation and you land and you realize as soon as you land, like, oh man, we made the right choice. This is going to be a fantastic week. Like the air is perfect. Like the sky is blue. You know, someone hands you a drink and a lei as soon as you step off the plane. That's how I feel when I cracked this book open.
Yep, it's finding $20 in the old jeans, and
oh yeah,
the old jeans are actually a little loose because you've lost a little weight. This is a good day.
And I thought about it. It was like having gone through what we just went through. It compares to me like how the Nats won the World Series this year, and before that there had been a decade of agonizing playoff losses and early exits and games that defied logic and reason in terms of how they found ways to lose. But looking back on them now, those horrible experiences made the final victory that much sweeter. And so Shadow Moon was a repeated gut punch crotch kick combo in the final game of a playoff series, that you were winning 6-0 at one point in time. But I'm glad we've been through it,
Exactly. Yeah, we did it. We have that behind us. For those who are listening for the first time, that's what we're talking about. We just finished the book Shadow Moon, and we decided that was so horrible. Let's do another Moon book. No, this one is going to be a treat. This is, of course, the podcast where we read through books and discuss books that we are probably not going to like. The last one just slammed dunked it as far as being the worst book. Although there's a little ripple of, there's a counter
pushback,
view that Sean Penn's book was worse. But I'm not going to fight you on that. But this one is so long. So. We made it through, and explain this book.
Yeah, now we're reading Moon People by Dale M. Courtney. We're sort of just sticking with the theme of, it's like that drinking game where you say a celebrity's name, and then the next person has to say one that starts with the last letter of the name. So we're doing Moon People. We did Shadow Moon. Now we'll have to do People of the Sun or something, whatever comes next.
Right.
But this is a guy who claims to be a former UFO researcher or member of the military, and he former national security advisor is actually what he claims to do. And he wrote a book about a guy who is pretty much a stand-in for him, who ends up venturing into outer space, or so we are led to believe. This section ended off with him preparing to do so. But it's got that Dwight David Thrash, James Tice, James Wynn, Tommy Wiseau, Neil Breen vibe to it, where it's just impossible to imagine someone with these lack of talents deciding that they're going to take on the one artistic venture that they're most ill-suited to.
Yeah, I was thinking about how there could not be, despite the fact that they both have moon in the title, there could not be a more stark difference between these books in terms of the prose of this one is pretty straightforward, as you'll see. The prose of the last one had jaws unhinging and bodies turning into whips and blood being rent and people crushed to atoms, pretty much every paragraph. This one, not so much.
No, people
getting breakfast and
Cheddar Bay biscuits, yeah. But so what amazed me though is that the book is incoherent. If you get the Kindle version, it's I don't think there's paragraph breaks. As we will discuss, there are multiple spelling errors. He has confusion with two. T-O, T-O-O, T-W-O. It has apostrophe problems.
There, of course.
There,
no concept of there.
And it also does some crazy choices with dialogue in that he opts to not use quotation marks and instead presents dialogue by a name in parentheses. So all signs point to it being impossible to understand, and yet it's much easier to tell what's going on in this book than Shadow Moon was.
That is true. That's true. Context clues, because it's so simple. But I have the a PDF version and the doc version, because I like to read off of that. In that, there's a different format in it.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of confusion. I'm not clear. Did he go in and do that? It seems like a lot of work. He went in, and so instead of the parenthetical, like it's a stage play reading in block form, there are some he saids and she saids in place of the name, but then it's abandoned quickly after that.
Right.
I emailed you to say if it's easier to read, go to the E version. But it became quickly even more difficult to read because he abandoned the parentheses and he abandoned the said, Dave.
Yeah,
Dave
I realized that when I was going to copy my notes out of it, that for whatever reason, there's two different versions of the book. And there was even, I found one sentence that was omitted in the ebook version. And we accused Ex Libris of being his, vanity imprint. But it turns out that's someone who will, put your book up for you. They're a self-publishing house.
Right.
So
did they make the changes?
I don't know.
There's stealth editing going on here.
It is baffling. But yeah, so just know that if you're reading the ebook version, which a lot of people are because it is cheaper, you're missing out on the true vision. I would say I consider the one with the parenthetical names the true experience.
Oh, you're putting that in is this your Can't Hardly Wait by the Replacements?
It's just, so it's what I read first, and it seems like you're missing one of the true things that makes it insane without the parenthetical names.
Well, I kind of agree, but I will say if you are reading the E version, you just have a different kind of insanity. So Connor's just preferring this insanity, which is fine. I stand by that too.
Well, I mean, we might as well dive in. We discussed on our reveal episode the fact that it starts off with on the title page it says Amazon gave Moon People 5 stars, which is it's not even like you're using the who was that guy who was the notorious hack that was like who liked every movie for a long time back in like the early aughts and late 90s.
Oh yeah. He was quoted in every single movie. He was what's known as a junket whore.
Yes,
where you would just I'll fly you to eat the buffet in Las Vegas, and you screen the film and give it 5 stars. I forget, it was Jim something.
Oh man, I can't remember. We'll get letters, but yeah. So but you don't even have that. You just have you have the entity of Amazon who has decided this book is 5 stars. But then we get a dedication on the next page, which I found. So these guys, these people always have this sort of like childlike world view that's very positive. It's in Tommy Wiseau's movie. It's in James Wynn. That makes it sort of, you feel bad criticizing them. It's like the kid with the really thick glasses that struck out in Little League all the time, where he just was like, all right, guys, we had a great game. That was really fun. You're all my friends. And you're like, now I can't make fun of you.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of the plan, though,
Yes, but it starts off with, I would like to dedicate this book to my children, whom I will always love no matter what. You can do anything you want to in this life. All you have to do is have the will and make it happen. And it is, you can do it. You can write a book, but doing it well is part of the point here.
Yeah. I handed the book to my other co-host for one of my other podcasts, Dave Berge, and I said, read what Amazon said about it. And he has a pretty explosive laugh at times, and it was gigantic, and he just nearly spit out. And then I said, "Oh, don't read the dedication." I didn't want to. I just want you to have that as your memory of this book.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, they tries to be cagey in that regard, but I think that the laugh out louds is something that numerous listeners wrote in, and that I experienced myself as I read these first 7 chapters.
Well, let's dive in.
Yeah. So chapter 1, that's how most books begin, right? So we'll go straight to chapter.
Pretty standard.
Chapter 1. Oh, sure. Wait, there's a page in between the dedication and chapter 1. Moon People. This story focuses on one man by the name of David Braemar. We get a summary, a pre-book summary on page 3.
And folks, this is not a tease. This is a full out, complete summary.
Yes, he lays it out. He tells you what he's going to tell you, like a high school essay writing teacher used to say. So yeah, he explains who the main character is, who the love of his life is. He explains that he's going to go into space. He explains the type of structure he's going to be living on in space. He explains the conflict, and it's truly baffling.
I think people are owed the first couple sentences, though, because I just had a note that it was a thing of beauty right out of the gate. Let's stop and talk for about half an hour on this.
Okay.
The story begins on a beautiful sunny day in Daytona Beach, Florida, with a man by the name of David Bramer, a 45-year-old single man that works at the local high school as a science teacher. That's a fragment there.
Sure.
He also teaches astronomy at the 12th grade level. Now he has been at this school for about 5 years.
Well, this is the chapter 1.
Did I skip ahead?
Yes, yes, yeah. The summary begins similarly. The story focuses on one man by the name of David Bramer and his adventures as first science officer. It talks about he also has a romance with one of the locals in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Her name is Cheryl Baskell, a local restaurant owner. But yeah, it goes on like that to describe the bases. It goes on to describe the creatures he's going to encounter, the Paulines, new friends who are an alien race. It goes on to describe their adversaries, the Archons. And I don't know why you put this before any of the stuff you're going to tell us.
Well, obviously I was very curious about this myself.
Oh.
And so luckily for us, the writing of this book was completely recorded. He was very meticulous with his notes.
Okay, yeah, sure. He knew that history would, just how Winston Churchill kept a diary type of thing.
Sure, you can do anything. He was telling not just his own children, he was telling generations that, because he did it and he knew. Much like the framers of the Constitution kind of knew that history was shining a light on them.
Yes.
They were well aware of their own positions and they jockeyed and so was he. And so he took meticulous notes. And I don't know if this was Snowden dug these out or whether it was Julian Assange or whatever, but the tapes of the writing of this were released. And you look at it and you think, of course, there was no editor.
Yeah. No, God.
I mean, we said that with almost every book we've had. We've wondered, where is the editor? Where is the editor? Well, there was an attempt to edit this book, and
my God, that is a stunning reveal.
Yes, yeah. So we have tape of it, and I think it explains what ultimately happened, and why the editing turned out the way it did. But
sure.
There was an attempt. So and I dug that out. I went to the. There's another dark web that's below the dark web. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I wasn't. Darker web?
Darker web, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think they gave up and just named it Dark Web 2.0, which I think is really lame.
Yeah, it's punting.
What are you going to do? Anyway, it's a good resource, and so here it is. Military grade encryption and everything.
Sure, we know the drill. Yeah,
sure. So let's listen to an attempt to edit the Moon People. Here we go.
Dale, honey, here's that copy editor I told you about. She's got notes on your intro.
Oh, wonderful. Sit down and let's dig in. As a writer, I welcome all criticism, no matter how large or small. Let's have at it.
The first thing I did is I took a first pass, and it sounds like you have written a blurb that readers are going to look at and decide whether or not the plot and the voice sounds interesting enough for them to pick it up.
Very insightful. That's exactly right. So what do you have?
And I overall think that we are very far from the mark in terms of what this needs to do if it's a book blurb. There's a lot of details in here that don't seem like they're central to the main plot at all.
No,
like what this
central.
Girlfriend does for a living.
Well,
and then there's quite a few more details that I wanted to see that are just completely missing.
I said
there's two alien races that you introduce, and we don't know what their issue is with each other or why they're fighting. We don't know why this guy David becomes part of their fight. And then the other thing that really needs to change is we need to take out all of the spoilers.
Well,
this book is based on the turning point for Earth into a new era of space travel and the beginning of the Age of Aquarius.
Yes.
Turning point, Of what?
Well,
I don't know what a new era of space travel means.
Well,
is the
I
government
wasn't
funding
exactly
space travel?
saying
Are
that-
there civilians space traveling? Not specific enough.
Well, I mean,
and
it's
the beginning
specific
of the
as
age of
it
Aquarius.
should be.
Now
that is a
don't
good
think
term,
this
and
is
that's gonna
important to
stay,
the plot
I
of the
think.
book,
That has to stay.
and think you might just be using this in quotes because it's a term.
2 hours later.
I really think we should tone down that the spaceships also have one very big surprise, because I read that and all of a sudden I was anticipating these amazing surprises that might happen.
It is a
There's
surprise.
apes working on the
apes.
ship. Aliens are captains.
No, it's much better than
and
that.
then I found out that the ships are split into 3 independent working sections, and that is not a very big surprise.
People
it's
want
not
to know
even really a
that.
surprise at all. You're just describing the ships.
3.5 hours
I
later.
would challenge you to go to your bookshelf, if you have one, and find a single book that has ever, on the blurb on the back of it, said, "I hope you will enjoy my book." It's incredibly unprofessional. We need to take that out. Because it's action-packed from the beginning to the end. You've just had 100 words to try to convey that to your readers. Let's take this out and work on showing them why it's action-packed up until this point. Like, never tell when you have a blurb like this. Please show us.
So, I mean,
Wow, yeah.
it explains a lot.
Editor had some good ideas, it sounded like. The voice, I mean, to me, it was almost familiar. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Huh. I wonder if it was like... no, it couldn't be. Anyway. But yeah, he didn't seem to take the editing very well. So I wonder if he fired them after they edited the
I think
intro?
he just ignored it all. Yeah. I mean, what would have been left had he taken that advice is the thing.
Right, exactly. Carve away everything that doesn't look like an elephant, I guess, is what the...
Exactly.
Carve away anything that isn't terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, the editor had the same idea about spoiler alerts. Spoiling your entire book, not a good idea.
Well, yeah. So the only other thing for that intro is that listener Janelle said we should have a draw a Pauline challenge, because he provides that description. Now on their missions, they encounter some new friends called the Paulines. They are very friendly and eventually join Earth and save Earth together. The Paulines are very tall, about 7 feet to 8 feet on average. Their legs and arms and torso are elongated, and also their neck. However, they are humanoid and angels from heaven to earth. So it's it's a wacky but also very serious story. But yeah, if you got a drawing or representation of a Pauline, we'd love to see it.
And right below that description, here's a thing you do not see probably in any book. One thing leads to another, and before you know it, it is an all-out space battle for our existence. So that's just the intro, folks.
Yeah, and one thing does lead to another. Into chapter 1, you revealed the first sentence, however, but I do want to focus on it. It says, David Bramer is a 45-year-old single man that works at the local high school as a science teacher. He also teaches astronomy in the 12th grade level. Astronomy is very much a science. It's like he's saying, I'm an English teacher. I also teach literature.
Right.
So that's what we're in for right here.
And yeah, you brought it up before. I have them all written down here. My possible pronunciations for his love interest.
Oh, sure. Ms. Baskell.
Yes. So Cheral.
Yeah, it's unusual.
Chiral, Cheryl, Kial, Chiral, or Chiral, Cheryl, Carol, Kiral, Chiral, and I'm probably missing a few, but that's what I got to, right? Because nothing jumps out. You don't go, oh, that's definitely Cheryl.
You do not definitely say that. That was what I sort of landed on after, agonizing about it.
Chiral is kind of but that doesn't sound right either. So I don't know. Why put these stumbling blocks? Everybody else is named David and Bud and John and Gary.
There's
and
a guy.
Steve.
There's an astronomer literally named Mr. Moon, so he's not going for challenges in other aspects of it. There is something later. There is a thing later where I just want to see. I don't want to spoil it, but there is something that made me think there was like maybe some text to voice going on or something. So we'll see if that. We'll see if when we get to that, we'll see if that maybe is what was.
Yeah,
happening.
there are some unusual. You're right. There were some things that I couldn't. Like, this is so far off that a spell check wouldn't have caught it. But how do you get to this kind of a thing?
Yes, exactly. Maybe we're probably talking about the same thing, but yeah. So Chiral is preparing her restaurant for another shuttle launch at the Cape because she has a restaurant where you can see the launch real good.
I briefly wondered whether he was talking about that the restaurant itself was going to launch.
I'm not ruling it out.
Her restaurant for a shuttle launch.
So this is an amazing detail. They down in in the Cape, you can see Daytona Beach. You can see these shuttle launches. He also informs us, about down at the end of the page. Today is also October 27th of the year 2048. So he just slides that right in there. The next shuttle launch at the Cape is on Halloween. So this is a 5-day process of prepping her restaurant for this shuttle launch. Like, I wasn't sure exactly what it meant by prepping. I assumed just putting up some, garlands or something, just like you put up Super Bowl decorations in a dive bar type of thing. But,
maybe she's got some merch or something on the side.
Right. Yes.
Like Area 51 or something. I don't know.
Right. But yeah, if she's selling T-shirts or something, she's like, it's revealed also that there have been, I think, 3 shuttle launches this week. Yeah, they've been launching 3. So it says everyone. Yeah. First of all, everyone is very suspicious about the next launch on the 31st because of it being Halloween. And this becomes a major plot point.
Utter projection from this guy, from this lunatic, because nobody ever thinks about it. Other than the inconvenience of, it is Halloween, maybe we should, nobody, I don't change my plans based on Halloween.
No, so once it came up for the 8th time that people are very nervous about that, is he confusing it with Friday the 13th? Like a bad luck day?
I don't know. No.
Because otherwise, it's just like, I hope, some punks don't TP my house, but otherwise that doesn't happen very often.
Now, you mentioned the reveal. I think it's supposed to be a holy cow. It's 2048.
Yes.
Boy, did he have us fooled. But he says today is also October 27th in the year 20. In addition to what?
It is sort of a, like you said, like a, that sentence from the thing, just like, I forgot to mention this, as if you were telling an oral folktale or something.
Right. Another one that threw me. Before he was a teacher, he used to work for the government for UFO research about 5 years ago. He didn't like the job much because he was always bored. So I was like, the setup is, why did you leave it? Cover-ups, the existence of other life forms kind of rocked your worldview.
Yeah, you couldn't tolerate the immoral things they were doing, keeping this info from the public or torturing these aliens.
Right. You were getting, strange threats. You feared for your family or your extended family.
Yeah, or you were having the visions like Close Encounters that were just sort of haunting you. You couldn't sleep because they were beaming messages into your brain at night.
Nah, I was bored.
Yeah, it's why I quit the glasses lens company that I worked for in 2004. But I like this. He does have a way with words. He sort of paints majestic imagery, just like you see on the cover. Everyone laughs about the way the base stations look. They look like a giant empty toilet paper holder from Earth. So you've got, this is it's exactly like Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Vision. People say it's a little boring, but at least it just looks beautiful. It really captures the experience of transcending Earth's surly bonds.
Well, this is a form of humor that there's not much of it here. This is pretty dry stuff, but there's one that's coming up that I think he works his way into his humor, and we're rewarded later on. This one is a fairly lame start, but yeah.
And we get a glimpse of the dialogue system. So far, this is just third-person narrator, but it says the The USS Lunar Base, parentheses 1 and parentheses 2, are rotating at this time. And in about 3, the number 3 months, the Lunar Base, parentheses 3, will start rotating. So it's a chilling vision of the dialogue to come. And we get so this guy, claims to be a professional who's no way to mince words, not an idiot. He's working for, national security and foreign policies and war strategies and world economic equality. But then he's got, so I guess he's not necessarily a scientist, but he lets us in on what these bases are going to do. Like one base is going to Jupiter. Base 2 is heading to Pluto, which I just wanted to see what it would take to send a manned structure to Pluto, because it's very far away. It seems like the New Horizon probe, which was maybe a decade or 5 years ago, took a little under 10 years to get there. But that was traveling maybe about 3 times as fast as your manned, space shuttle would, and that's not a base, which I'm imagining has a substantially slower time. It's more like a cruise ship. So I would guess it would take at least a couple generations to get there. Not the.
Is there something about the fact that it splits into 3 sections that makes it go faster? That could be a huge advantage that he's just assuming knowledge from his audience that.
I suppose. I guess I am the idiot in this situation.
It is amazing the world building in Shatner's world, Shatlart's world. They made nods toward it. It was a lot of, build it in your own head. There's transparent runways or walkways and stuff like that. And there's air cars flying around. Mm-hmm. He's got this world and there's nothing. We're living in this future where there are moon bases, but he's mostly talking about driving in his car. You get no idea how is this change? How is this different from life? And it appears to be not different at all.
At all, yeah. He's listening to terrestrial radio. He has the main innovation when I realized it was supposed to be wow, futuristic, was the 80-inch chalkboard-sized television monitor in his classroom.
Zeus, you mean?
Yes.
This is a missed opportunity here, though. So he's driving on his way to his job as a science teacher and an astronomy teacher. On this day, David is on his way. That's a weird construction.
Yes.
To the restaurant, like always, listening to his radio. His favorite song is playing when there's an interruption in the broadcast on the emergency broadcast system. This is all one sentence. This is K92 FM. We take you live to NASA with a special report. How in the name of all that is good and holy did he not name his favorite song?
Oh, man.
God, I wanted to hear his favorite song. Oh,
yeah, that's details left out. Yeah, because that would have been either an opportunity for humor or just a glimpse into this guy's life, because clearly this is a Mary Sue, right? This Dale M. Courtney is David Bramer, yes. Right? He couldn't even change the first syllable of his name.
Yes. He gets calls from NASA and wants him to go to the moon, of course. So we get Steve Slater is the announcer, and here's Steve. We're not sure of anything yet. What we do know is it's coming from the direction of the constellation of Scorpio at the tail area, heading this way, going approximately 60,000 miles an hour, and it is a planet killer. We repeat, please do not panic. Now we resume to your regular programming. Steve Slater is not at all a comforting voice during this trying time.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's the planet killer might be something you want to tone down if you're asking people to please do not panic.
Repeatedly asking them not to panic. He says it's very important that you don't. And it once again reminded me of the classic. Remember, this is a double elimination tournament.
Yes.
Please do not panic, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he starts later on. He tells his students that people panicking could start dying because of the panic. But he goes around and tells them the exact same information. This is whizzing toward our planet or our sun at a miles per hour that we're supposed to believe sounds impressive.
But then he stops for breakfast, and that's where we really get into the dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're full into it.
So they put on the TV in the bar, not a normal sized TV, not chalkboard sized. We get some just facts about the meteor, but it says, "Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully with God's help, nothing will go wrong. We will see the most spectacular event the world has ever seen since the beginning of time." But he says, the same guy says it's going to be here in 178 days, but is also going to miss by 25,000 miles. So I'm not sure what this spectacular event since the beginning of time is going to be, because like we've all seen a comet before, and it's like, oh, there it is. It's not like a 4th of July firework finale or anything, but it's interesting that it's up there.
Well, in all of the chapters in this reading, the meteor thing, this planet killer, I have no idea what it's doing.
Right? Yeah.
What is it supposed to be or not be? From 1 second they phone in reports later, and it's just like, I think we're in the clear, and then, oh no, here it is. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, they eventually, use Zeus to do their own calculations, getting ahead, and the calculations are different, but by like 5%, and they realize that they treat that as a grand revelation. I guess missing by 25,000 miles is pretty close, because the moon is that's a tenth of the distance to the moon. So I guess that would be pretty cool if a big object whizzed by like that. But it also seems like it'd be pretty dangerous. But which is why probably at the end of the report you heard everyone say the same 3 words. Oh my God! Which again, people all saying the same thing simultaneously. A large crowd of people all doing that it becomes another common theme here.
Is a hallmark, and maybe that is the sort of Twilight Zone twist of what's different about the future, is people all speak at the same time and they speak the exact same words. I mean, that is pretty spooky if you think about it.
It is. It's like it's a Children of the Corny type of thing.
Right. So the report comes, and this was my first dose of being confused by, it's all just one block of text on the PDF. It's not dissimilar to the book, but there's variations. But this is Steve Slater. I take you live to NASA Observatory to talk to Herbert Larson, head astronomer. Then in my first encounter of Herbert Larson in parentheses really threw me off. Like, wait, what? Am I supposed to look up Herbert Larson? Is there an asterisk and then there's a paragraph below or something? But no, that is supposed to be him speaking. But then that disappears and doesn't come back again for chapters. So very, very confusing. But Steve Slater, the voice of Steve Slater again, please, it's very important not to panic. It won't help at all. It will only make things worse. Now we take you back to your regular programming. The news reporters seem to always make things a little more scarier than they need to be for effect.
Wow.
So I don't know whether that was Steve reporting on himself. But I think that's supposed to be David responding to him. But he just told everyone in no uncertain terms not to panic. So he's not making it. He's quite downgrading this event, which is going to kill the planet. Anyway, very James Wennian. He has no grasp of what's happening from one sentence to the next.
Right. But then, so David sort of acts as the voice of reason, even though Steve Slater, as we just saw, is also being the voice of reason, saying don't panic. He says it probably won't collide with anybody. And then everyone realized who David was and what he did for a living. Then everyone started to calm down and listen to what he was saying. Suddenly, everyone went ahead and ate their breakfast. So I just like the idea of people suddenly all, simultaneously eating their breakfast at the same time.
Well, again, that's a spooky thought if it was played out in sort of a, do a little Dutch angle on the camera and everyone at the same time realizes who he is and then begins eating their breakfast, zombie-like.
Right.
Yeah. I guess there's an element of terror to that.
It is. It's like the birds like walking outside and they're all, perched on the playground and phone lines and stuff.
Right.
But speaking of, go ahead.
Here's a bit of humor. Again, there's more to come, but I'm not sure how I feel about this because I don't want him to stop trying. I want a glimpse into the mind of what he thinks is funny.
Yeah.
But this one I'm not a fan of. I want to be clear on that, but I don't want him to stop. It says, as the reporter started telling everyone what was going on, you could hear a mouse burp.
Right.
And here was spelled Hera. I'll just point that out. We won't point out every one.
Yeah, you have to do so. When they improve a sentence like that, you've got to let them know. Yeah, that was a popular dumb sentence of the week. But
oh, sorry.
But yeah, I mean, again, coining a phrase like, is a mouse fart something that you say before? I mean, a pin drop is clearly the traditional.
Yeah, it struck me as odd and sort of, I don't know, just kind of, yeah, what?
Maybe if you're from the weird part of the Florida Panhandle where they name people Chiral, it might be a colloquialism.
Right. I did wonder, speaking of that, is he going for the cafe in The Right Stuff? Have you ever seen that or read the book? There's like this dusty old cafe out where they're doing these tests where, like a diner or cafe with a crusty old woman behind the counter, and they all, John Glenn and everyone meet in there. And I just wondered is that what he's maybe trying to summon up? There's a cafe where the space NASA's right there. And
I think it's a diner type of place. Like, and Cheryl, it doesn't seem to be crusty because we get her smiling sexy smiles a whole bunch coming up. But
well,
so
she had a sexy smile on her face and then went to the kitchen.
I guess so. Yes. It was not necessarily in response to whatever he did. And what he does is he orders his uber mysterious breakfast, the 222.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah,
what's going on here?
So yeah, it's his usual. David turned to Chiral with a smile, and Chiral said 222. David said, "You know me, yes, ma'am." Coming right up, Chiral smiled. She had a sexy smile on her face and then went to the kitchen.
that was one of my dumb sentences, by the way. That's one you're not going to see in a lot of other books ever again. She had a sexy smile on her face and then went to the kitchen.
But yeah, it comes up more than often, and it is not explained. So maybe I'm missing out. Maybe I'm revealing my coastal elite status by not knowing. That could be 2 eggs, 2 bacon, 2 sausage links.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not. I don't think it's the Florida area code that they're in.
Is it it's the local meat and 3?
I suppose. That's the Nashville version. But then, she comes back out, and that's I've been coming here for a long time, and we never really got to know each other that well. Do you think maybe that David seemed to be a little... Oh, right. So this is another one. So I'm going to read that again the way that I believe it's supposed to be intended.
Okay.
This is David talking. I've been coming here for a long time, and we never really got to know each other all that well. Do you think maybe that David seemed to be a little nervous? Well, I was wondering if you would like to go out with me sometime. Chiral put a sexy smile on her face and said, I would really like that a lot. It's a narrator. It's DMC, turning to the camera.
Yeah, but it's in the middle of the sentence, right?
Yes. But it's I guess David could be saying, do you think maybe that, comma, David seemed to be a little nervous, but then there's a question mark. And we do see question marks completely out of place at some points in time during the story. So it's possible that's an error as well. The point is we have no idea what the intent is here.
Yeah, this was the section that I just sent to Bridget. Like, look, I promise I won't do much of this, but please read this. And it goes on after she put a sexy smile on her face.
Right.
And said, I would really like that. David put a big smile on his face. So a completely sexless smile, but
right.
That's great. How about Friday night? Again, just you'll have to trust us. There are no clues that anyone's speaking here at all. Cheryl said, okay, that sounds good to me. Super. David answered and was very happy because Cheryl said yes. I mean, what do you even... I don't even know what to say about that.
Right. I mean, this guy is 45. He has 3 kids, we're led to believe. He's wooed his share of women, but this is evidently how he thinks it works.
Bridget then produced a book parody that I wrote many, many years ago it was for a video game. It was like a thing that you could find in the pocket of your airplane and read it. It was a novel that someone had left behind.
Wait. Like you wrote a fake found novel?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't super long. But it had the prose style that what I wanted to make clear was that it was the author writing himself as the coolest guy who ever lived.
Oh, nice.
And the prose is very close to this.
Do you still
I can
have it?
produce that. I have it. I have the actual hard copy. I'll put up. I'll scan it and put it up on the Patreon.
Nice.
Not the whole thing. You could never get through the whole thing. But.
Perfect. So this is he leaves, and we get more. As he was driving to work, he noticed everyone seemed to be driving a little crazy and yelling at each other, which is a great mental image. I mean, it is Florida, as we know, so Florida men are everywhere. But
They're everywhere, yeah.
When he got to school, he noticed everybody was running around panicking. Everybody was telling everyone to calm down. Pick one. Pick which one is it?
Well, this is the only way I could figure it that. So everyone was panicked and running around, and the way they panic is to tell everyone else to calm down.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can square that circle.
So this is, I think we see that before, people being like, get a hold of yourself, which is not an effective way of getting someone to calm down. So it could be that type of thing.
Yeah, it's the old, 50s and 60s movies. A woman panics and the guy grabs her by the shoulders and shakes her and says, get a hold of yourself.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. This is helping so much.
Yeah. But so, yeah, everyone is running around panicking. Everybody's telling everyone to calm down. It's not even just the one guy at the end of Animal House saying, nothing to see here. Please, remain calm. But then this is bizarre. And I think maybe you'll even be surprised that I know this, but his favorite students walk in. His favorite students are Billy Berenson and Cathy Rigby.
Wait, what?
Cathy Rigby was famous for playing Peter Pan.
I didn't even. She a gymnast, I believe, Olympic gymnast.
Yeah, and I think it was on like TV or something. There was a TV movie or something, and my mom was like, "Oh, it's Cathy Rigby like returning to her famous role as Peter Pan," and I was like. I have a Garfield book to read. I can't do this, but Billy Berenson. I googled. The only results are from excerpts of Moon People, but then he just went ahead and named the other one after maybe someone he had a crush on growing up or something.
That is bizarre. I passed right over that without reading that.
Nice,
Cathy Rigby. That is very strange.
Yeah. So, they walk in. They're of course panicked. But he says he lets him know that he does have one of the latest telescopes, and the chapter ends with him going to return a call because they say that Bud Walker at NASA has called him, so he has to leave to talk to him.
And this is the description again. Square this circle. Then Billy said, "That's pretty cool, Professor." "Yeah, that is cool," Cathy replied. David spoke up and said, "I've got to go to the office to get some forms." So he's in the middle of setting up his thing, but he suddenly realized he's got to go get some forms. Yeah. No explanation of what that is. "I'll be right back, so be good."
Yes.
Billy and Cathy both said, "Okay, Mr. Braemar." As David arrived at the office, everyone was very busy and a little panicky. It was close to chaos. So everyone is panicky. It is chaos. Except for his students, Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, who are saying how cool his telescope is.
Right, yes.
What the hell? Gee whiz, you've got a telescope. That's cool. The kids and I could use this. There are people smearing their own feces on the walls out in the hall.
Yeah. There's been a mass suicide in Gymnasium 2.
But I'm going to grab those forms and I'll pop right back. Swell. Can't wait.
No students are actively updating their 5 million follower TikTok channel about the end days.
Oh my God. And so that's it. That's all I got. That's a brief chapter.
That's it. But so we complained about the chapters in Shadow Moon being these endless tomes that clearly ignored any reasonable point where you should divide it up. This is the exact opposite. Chapters just end like mid sentence essentially, and pick right back up. With they had no reason to be indicated that there needed to be a chapter break.
Don't you think this is it's like the panicking and putting quotes around it? I think he panics and puts question marks behind things, and he panics and ends chapters.
Right.
I don't think he has any clue as to why. He just knows he saw a book once, although I'm doubtful that he did. Because you would know how to put quotes around something or know how to indicate someone was speaking. You wouldn't put parentheses in, had you ever read a book yourself?
No, it's entirely his own form of written communication. It is. It's like something where the elderly guy upstairs, you get the notice that he willed all his belongings to you, and you go up there and he's written this long world, and you're like, wow, it's outsider art. That's what it is. But he gives the chapters names. So chapter 2 is called The New Job. So my theory is maybe it's just like wherever the previous day's fugue state ended, he goes back in, he picks up his, document again, and he's like, I guess it's a new chapter now. Don't remember writing any of that, but I'm gonna re-enter into that state, and wherever I leave off today, it will be the end of today's chapter.
He hangs his scuba gear in the garage and heads up to his laptop and like, where was I? Let's make him a new job.
The 3 kids are getting back from school any minute now, so I've got to bang something out today to hit my quota.
Well, this chapter starts with it in the electronic version, and if you have the book version with you, tell me if it's the same. It just begins with, "Yes, Mr. Braemar, I'm head of operations out here at NASA."
Yes, very confusing.
No indication that anyone is speaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's Bud. Bud is the head of operations. But yeah, it extremely confusing because we don't even get the parentheses at this point in time.
Yes, and this is go ahead.
He says, "This is about the meteor, isn't it?" "Yes," Bud replied. "I hear, Here, you are the best at what you do." David smiled and said, "Well, I don't know about being the best, but I do teach astronomy in high school and have been into astrology for about 20 years. Click.
Yeah.
Hello?
That is, yes.
Hello?
Exactly.
We needed a non-idiot who has an actual science background for this NASA job, sir. I will be calling someone else."
He calls over to the Weekly World News and says, "Do me a favor, call up this idiot."
Yes.
Have him talk about his astrology, will you?
Right. Yeah. He calls up. We need a leading poultry scientist for this bird flu that's wiping out our farms. Well, I do have one of those Gwyneth Paltrow yoni eggs, so I suppose you could be. I do have a background in eggs, so yeah, sure, sign me up.
That was so puzzling that I wondered.
Mistake?
Is it a mistake? Did he just mean that he's into?
But he says,
and I've been into astronomy for about 20 years.
He says, I teach it in high school and have been into so if you assuming that good faith, I do teach astronomy in high school and I have been into astronomy for about 20 years. Also, is not a good not NASA material.
I know that's not an out, but I'm trying to find some way to account for the madness of that sentence.
But Bud has some, it's a open a door, close a window type of thing. Our head astronomer, Herbert Lawson, and his assistant were in an automobile accident yesterday. They're both in pretty bad shape. They will be all right. Which is it? I mean, imagine that you're getting that phone call about a loved one. Sir, there's been a terrible accident. They were in pretty bad shape. Oh my God, they will be all right. Why didn't you say that, you monster?
He's the doctor from Arrested Development. I'm afraid we've lost him. Oh my God! Yeah, he jumped out a window. He's running down the street. We can't. You son of a.
And then so he sort of is saying, since Herbert Lawson and his assistant were in an accident, we need you to come do this. And this is one of the most amusing things I've ever had to speculate. David said, "Wait, I have a job." "Yes, I know," Bud replied. "We are willing to go the extra mile here. We will pay top dollar on this one. And we have a substitute to take your place at school." All of this is coming straight from the top. So I need to know, who at NASA was tasked with the job of finding a substitute high school astronomy teacher. Because at most schools, it's sort of like you just go into the sub pool, someone gets the call, someone who's, but I guess NASA just sort of put their top man on that one.
It's just so funny that is a detail, obviously, that is niggling at our author, Whereas no one reading the book would ever in a million years
Right.
be worried about. But if he takes the position,
Right.
how are they going to get a substitute teacher? But he wants to make sure none of us are troubled by that.
Right. What troubles me is that they keep, this becomes, once again, we've said this 5 times already, this becomes a running theme, but the top dollar salary they're talking about, he can't even be bothered to put a James Wynn childishly round number figure on it.
Hilarious, because later he speculates on it with having given no indication of what it is, except saying it pays pretty well. And then he says, but I bet it's probably more than what I'm making now. Why didn't you just ask? Put it in.
Right.
Why are we all dancing around the fact there's a couple discussions of salaries and no numbers ever?
Yeah. And, you could easily, blow us out of the water. $150 million. He's giving up 10 years of his life, we realize. That's what the commitment is. So, do something like a pro athlete salary, something like that.
It's enough money to make him leave the 222 and Chiral, so it's sizable. But yeah, put a figure on it.
So he goes back. He says he thinks about it. He goes back to his classroom, hooks up the 80-inch chalkboard-sized monitor to the telescope. So yeah, that's again meant to be impressive, but it's sort of what a lot of people essentially have in their basement at this point in time.
But don't you think the rundowns of the equipment sounded a little familiar?
Oh, what was it?
David Thrashian with the spying equipment.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He goes into a little eddy here, a little side pool, and just spends a minute talking about the 80-inch chalkboard computer monitor in a way that made me think of that.
Yes, right. The contact lens telescope and the hearing sonar mechanism that the spy team had.
Right.
But so even though these kids have undoubtedly grown up with retina projection and 80-inch TVs are now as lame as a 30-incher was for us 10 years ago, when he hooks it up, the whole HOLE class made a wow sound, and then they all said about the same time, "Cool."
Again, these spooky children, you are freaking me out.
Yeah. And then at that point, David knew he had a hit, and then he told Billy to turn out the classroom lights. They could see the meteor very clear as if it were nighttime. Also, everyone shouted out, "There it is, wow." So yeah, I think your theory is correct. There's some sort of horrible thing happened to a generation of children a couple years ago, and now they're all have a hive mind and speaking like that.
Well, while they're doing this, is there still panic in the rest of the school? And he doesn't update us on whether the panic levels, do they stay? Do we always assume a level of panic is the baseline?
I think this gives them a break from that, but the panic does return in the next chapter.
Right.
So it might be suspended as they're gazing at the pretty good high definition. David says, "It's so clear." The whole class at the same time said, "Yeah." So I'm glad that high definition is still impressing people the same way it did in 2004 when the first year friends got an HD TV.
I had that one 44 years ago, but wow.
Right.
Another oddity is that the class will either say at the same time things or they will sound out at the same time, which is not wow, the class sounded out.
Yes.
That's just an odd construction for what he's trying to accomplish there.
Wow, yeah, so it's like, like they were doing a phonics lesson.
Yes. But then right after he sounds it out, Billy looks at David and yelled out, "Ask Zeus if the meteor is going to hit Earth."
Yeah, that could be a panicked yell.
And then the whole class yells
there,
out, "Why not?" So the class, wow, they sound it out. And then, wow, they sound it out again. Then Billy yells, "Ask Zeus if the monitor's going to hit Earth." David says, "Maybe I shouldn't." The whole class yells out, "Why not?"
Imagine as a teacher, you'd be like, "Okay, all right, you've all obviously organized a prank. The next time anyone yells out anything simultaneously, whoever yells it out is going to the principal's office."
Right. This has the most amazing chapter and restarting the new chapter. The last sentence of chapter 2 is, It's not that simple, Billy. Chapter end. Chapter 3 begins. There's a lot of things that could be wrong.
Well, I have since you were reading the ebook, I have a revelation for you.
Oh, what?
So this is the class yells out, "Why not?" Billy tells David, "Hey, Professor, we're all..." the revelation is that there's an extra sentence that ends the chapter.
What?
So he has gone back. He's looked it up. He's determined that the original estimate of 185 days is incorrect. They have nothing to worry about because it's going to be 204 days, 6 hours and 22 minutes and 44 seconds. Mm-hmm. Zeus points out that the meteor is over 10 kilometers in diameter. And so the main thing that this Zeus calculated was that it was going to be like 25 days more. So this is very, very dramatic. But he says, "Hey, Professor, we are all in this together. It's not that simple, Billy," David replied. "The computer could be off. I just hooked it up."
Wow. So who's editing the ebook version?
I do not know. I think it's just a copy and paste error. I think he must have just cut it off, as he was copying it from the regular doc to the ebook doc.
But do you think it is that he was not using something like Google Docs or something, and he was doing his own, save versions, and he had just tons of them, and he accidentally pasted in the wrong save version after he had done revisions?
Yeah. He had, Moon People, Vir 3.0 final, Rev, right. Final.
I had to deal with that when I wrote my first book. There still wasn't that you just had to keep track of all your saves, and it was always horrifying. I'm like, save changes? Like, no. Right. Yes? No? I don't remember.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can't even imagine.
So wow, well that's shocking.
Yeah,
so how does
think about that.
3 start then?
Well, it starts the same way, but so his whole thing is he is saying that since he just hooked up the top of the line Zeus telescope, that there's some sort of calibration period or some sort of newborn period where you're less accurate as a high-powered state-of-the-art telescope. It's like I turn on my computer for the first time and all of a sudden all my Google results are going to be, they need a settling in period for the first day or two.
Yeah, it's got to break in a little bit.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
Don't listen to it now.
It's like climbing shoes,
I guess it's in this chapter that he asks Zeus how accurate Zeus is. I think.
Yeah, it's in chapter 3, right? Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it starts off with the same way that you ended it. But he wants Zeus to estimate this, but he's worried. Billy says, "How about if we all pledge not to say anything?" David smiled and thought for a moment and said, "This is serious, people. A lot of people can die in a panic." He's
as
smiling.
Witnessed by the 43 people stacked up in the hallway outside of this room right now.
Right. There's there. See, another gunshot out in the hallway. We all heard it. But so he says, since Billy says we really give our word, David laughed and said, "Okay, listen very carefully, class. If you hereby pledge to this class and to God that you will not tell anyone what we find out in this class about the meteor, I will ask Zeus that question." Wow, David, settle down.
This one cracked me up. First of all, it was here and by, and again, we can't point out all these things, but some of them are just funny. And then he just puts a period in the middle of that. "If you swear by God, we'll not tell anyone that we find this out at the class about the meteor, period. I will ask Zeus that question." Again, he just panics. Like he can't write. That sentence was getting a little long, so it must need some sort of punctuation.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh.
And everybody in the class sounded out, "I do."
Right. Moses Rubinstein in the back row is, "Sure, I'll pledge to your God, whatever."
Right. And then the curious sentence after that, "I hope I'm not making a big mistake." Which I don't know if he's saying that to the children. I don't know.
Is the smile still on his face as he's revealing this information that could cause people to die in a panic?
His non-sexy smile.
So we get this. Zeus, will the meteor collide with any planet in our solar system? Computer, parentheses, negative. There is a 94% possibility that will collide with your sun. The whole class went silent. Then David said, "Remember, people, I just hooked this up. It may not be accurate." So colliding with the sun appears to be Zeus's forecast. I don't know what would happen if a 10-kilometer meteor collided with the sun. I have to imagine it wouldn't be a giant deal.
I don't know. I wondered about that too.
Because 10 kilometers is the moon is 3,500 kilometers in diameter. Mm-hmm. So it's not it's not planetoid. It's big. It's not something you probably want to hit the Earth that would wipe out a small city. But sun's diameter. Let's see.
Well, certainly it's something that the class goes silent here, but it seems like they would want to sound out to David. Yeah. So ask the thing what that means.
Right.
Like, what's going to happen?
Right.
But they just go silent twice when it says there's only a 6% chance that it won't hit your star, as Zeus cheekily says.
Wow.
We call it the sun a-hole, and you know that.
Yeah. Zeus, are you not of this planet? Like, were you?
I'm just warming up, okay? I'm sorry. I'll call it the sun from now on.
I also Zeus, I don't know how much of have a celestial track record he had. Like, as far as I know, he was, the thunder god, and he was, transforming into a swan to bang unsuspecting rivals' wives and stuff.
Yeah, he had sons. Wasn't Dionysus torn from the thigh of Zeus?
Yeah, and someone else
not
was
very celestial,
springing out of his head. Yeah, I'm puzzled by the name, but the bell rang, and he says, "Remember, class, don't say anything about what you have heard. People can die panicking. You took a pledge." So now he's essentially, swearing them to silence under penalty of death.
But in that moment of that's pretty grim. He's giving them a warning. He's drawing his finger across his throat to David and Cathy Rigby, the gymnast and star of Peter Pan.
My God!
And then Billy answered, "There's a 6% chance. We'll see you later, Professor." David grinned and said, "Smarty pants." "I will kill you, Smarty pants."
Yeah, it's an episode of like head of the class as the death of our son approaches.
Then Billy laughed and walked out with Cathy. So there's pretty light mood around what they just heard.
Yeah. But then
they're taking it well.
Not only that, the same sentence continues, and finally all of the students cleared out of the room, all of which had a doomed look on their face.
So,
I mean, we can't do an audio challenge of that, but make a doomed look on your face.
And did you wonder what is with the leaving the EDs off of things that are? There's no way that he can't know that he has to put an ED on the end of words.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, it says all of the students cleared out of the room. So the room becomes then the subject, all of which had a doom look on their face. So, I mean, we talked about on the Patreon reveal, there was that question, on Reddit, is this a troll? And people were like, no, he wrote other stuff. But, it's just the kind of thing that you couldn't possibly begin to fake, when you make a intentionally bad movie, Sharknado and stuff. This is the sort of thing that never occurs to you.
Yeah, it's
these
true.
Expressions, these using Cathy Rigby, putting quotes in parentheses. You just you'd never do that. It's beyond the realm of your average internet wise ass to try to undertake something like this.
Yeah, you might get one element of it or something, but you couldn't get a bunch of them. They would sound your temptation to be too much, too hammy or something would kick in, and you'd reveal yourself for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
But here's a nice moment from the head of NASA to get some real good dialogue in his. So he decides to call him up, and he's going to do it, right? So
yeah.
So hello, Mr. Walker. This is David Bramer. This is the head of NASA. Bud answered, "Yes. How's it going?" So he's trying to fill the position of his two mortally wounded top level astronomers,
right? Who are going to be okay.
But he's basically a football coach from Arkansas, I guess.
Right. Just even the name Bud is that sort of, I guess he's thinking of those crew cut guys from The Right Stuff, probably.
I guess so. How's it going?
But so, let's talk about some parallels to another book we read of Armada, where the top generals had been sent to the moon. They were eating Cheetos up there and, playing Star Fox on their Nintendo 64 replicas type of thing. So you've got, a New York Times million-copy bestseller, and you've got this utter piece of garbage that everyone agrees is one of the worst books ever written. And there was a scene in Armada, too, where they're impressed by the high-definition monitors somewhere, in whatever year in the future that was, too. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'd forgotten the similarity to that other book, but it is.
I like this exchange too because it contradicts something from 2 pages earlier. David said, "By the way, sir, what were you talking about earlier?" Because we skipped this, but the head of NASA says, "I want you to come on board, and I have another job to tell you about." And he says, "What were you talking about earlier?" "I'll tell you when you get here," Bud said. "Okay," David answered. "I'll go ahead and make arrangements here for a substitute, and I'll come on down." NASA already arranged for a substitute. They said that at the outfront. So I'm not sure if he doesn't trust their substitute finding or if he just forgot about that himself. But a contradiction.
Yes. But we also get from the operations director or the head, I forget what he is, but he's the head of NASA.
I think so.
Bud said, "All right, please drive careful. I'll see you in a little while." and I thought that was quaint and laughable, but then I remembered, well, they did just have that big accident. I guess that's what he's referring to there.
Yeah, everyone was driving in a panic, driving a little crazy and yelling at each other. So the Bud is probably
It's true. That was actually that was actually a very grim conversation. I thought it was sort of dumb and quaint, but no, it was, "Please drive careful."
Drive careful. What is it? What's happening?
What's happening?
But this is another just another amazing detail. Do you have anything else on their conversation?
No.
Okay. This is one of my favorite sentences I've ever read. When David finally arrived at NASA, he had forgotten how big NASA had gotten in the past few years. Was he expecting like the our Rift Tracks office in San Diego, like 6 offices and some boxes stacked in the hallway, like what?
But it also is a puzzling, the construction of the sentence. When David finally arrived, he had forgotten how big.
How big NASA has gotten. It changes tense 3 times. It's like, oh, well, NASA, yeah, you must be doing pretty well for yourself here.
And it is also extremely lax security on this whole operation, and that continues going forward. But, just call up a science teacher, have him come down. He said, "I'll call the front gate, and they'll let you in." So it's basically it's a gated community in Florida. And,
it's what you tell the Chinese delivery guy.
Yeah, you could get a 3-day pass. Just pop it on your windscreen there, and you'll be good to go.
Another example of that. Another just one of my favorite exchanges in all of literature. As David was walking in, Bud was walking out, and almost bumped into each other. "Hey, there he is," Bud says. And that's what we like. I mean, does that have an origin? Because we use that as like that's just been a running joke for a decade for us. Like, is that did you come up with that or something? Does that have its origin somewhere else? Like, was that an example of like someone trying to do a movie riff but being bad at it or something?
But there he is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. This is years ago. I was with a critic for something, like an important critic, like the New York Times or something, and we needed to schmooze these people, and it was at a hotel, and Kevin was there. And the guy came up to me. We'd gotten friendly, and he said, "Hey, I've interviewed you guys a lot. I don't think Kevin knows who I am." I'm like, Kevin loves you. What are you talking about? He knows you. Kevin walks in, sits down, and goes, "Hey, there he is." And the guy just slapped his hands on the table and looked at me with wide eyes. I don't know what I can say.
All right. Yeah, so it's a 100% dismissive response of someone you don't even want to pretend like you know the name of.
Right.
So that was great. But Bud says the meteor's been changing course. They've been keeping tabs on it. So everything that as soon as we see the meteor that's going to kill us all, everything from that moment out seems to indicate it's not going to. So all the people driving in panics are idiots. I think Bud says here, like, I don't see how we're going to stop a panic if everyone is watching on his or her new telescope, yes. Bud replied. I mean, that's a pretty quick assumption that everyone has a Zeus telescope system, too, right?
Isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's I don't know if they're the Alexas of their time, where people just sort of have them installed, but they are top of the line. So it could be just that year's big Christmas gift.
That could be. It was the
maybe
Wii of 10 years ago.
Yeah, everyone just is a much bigger loser in 2048 and has telescopes that they're all looking at all the time.
Right. But then he's taken in to meet one of the great characters of literature, I think, Kim Moon.
Yeah.
So, and this is his new assistant.
Yeah. He was the assistant to the guy who was maimed in the car wreck.
And this is a great bit of dialogue. How do you do, Mr. Moon? David asked. Pretty good, Kim replied. I'm a little tired, but I'll be all right. How are you, Mr. Moon? Bud said, I am putting David Bramer in charge of all upper. I was just about to tell Mr. Moon how tired I was. I don't get a chance to. I just thought that was hilarious. Like, we have to know that his assistant's a little tired.
Maybe that's just, he's using a few words to tell a big story. The car wreck happened. Mr. Moon's been pulling in, triple shifts ever since then. He's
we're all panicked. I guess that takes up a lot of energy.
Sure. Yeah.
Panicked at all times.
And, obviously not the first time we've compared it, but Dwight David Thrashian name for the partner, the astronomer named Kim Moon is, just a stunning similarity.
I wish that he had chosen like another, gymnast from the past. This is your assistant, Nadia Comaneci.
Right. I'm starting to see a pattern here. So just move into chapter 4 unless you have anything else, because it starts with another pretty amazing exchange between those two.
Well, I'm on 4. Let's go.
4 is titled The Job Offer, which of course takes place on the set of his new job he has already accepted. It says, I think this is another example at humor.
Yes, this definitely is.
Moon says, I will show you everything there is to know, Mr. Bramer. Just call me David. Okay, just call me Mr. Moon. No, I'm kidding. Just call me Kim. Okay, Mr. Kim. No, just Kim will be fine. Settle down. Let's settle down here. This is, we do.
I wrote, his confidence is growing. He's written his way into his story.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the first one is sort of like he's at the gym on January 1st doing his first weightlifting, and then it's a month later and he's walking in like snapping towels at people and asking guys to spot for him and stuff.
And the head of NASA standing next to them watching this is going like, there is a meteor, or maybe not a meteor, maybe headed towards us, maybe the sun. Come on.
Right. His pager's going off from the wife of the guy in the car wreck, 911 call as soon as possible. It's taking a turn. So I don't have a lot of this, because this goes into a lot of specific details about them looking at the course of the meteor. But it did have one great sentence that was also slightly different in the Kindle version, but I'll read it with the punctuation. As they, semicolon, were both looking at the view screen at the same time, ? And I think in the Kindle version, they took out the semicolon, which really tears apart the author's intent here, It's like colorizing Psycho or something.
Right. The only things I have are just some curious, so they're trying to figure out what's going on with it, like you say, disappearing, accelerating, whatever. And David says he'll inform the boss. So okay, David replied, I'll use this phone. And then just nothing from Kim, frozen out, left hanging about his phone choice. I mean, I'm going to call him, I'll use this phone. What is he trying to get from that?
Maybe he was like, reaching into his lunch bag and picked up a banana. I'll use this phone. No, that's a banana. I know. I will use the real phone.
I'm just getting you back for that earlier thing about Mr. Kim. So then, once again, the head of NASA here, he calls him up and gives him the report, and head of NASA says, "Wow, all that just happened?" asked Bud. "I just left you 5 minutes ago. Man, there's all kind of stuff happening today." You are the head of NASA, sir.
Yeah, right. A guy went through his windshield with his assistant. What happened is that they saw some flashes of light along the path of the meteor, but they determined they can't see the meteor anymore. But then they're like, oh, the meteor would have had to double its rate of speed if those lights were along the course of it. So they're suspicious that maybe it's something is happening or someone is moving it or something like that. But when he calls the head of NASA, Bud, he offers him the second job. So I guess the chapter title was accurate. But he says, for whatever reason, he's keeping this a secret until now. He says, we need a first science officer and navigator and also an astronomer for USS Lunar Base 1. The pay is excellent. You would have the rank of captain. So for whatever reason, he's doing two separate things. It must be an HR procedure or something.
Right.
But
yeah.
then he all of a sudden lapses into like a... the guy, the evil, general from Avatar, or like Patton, some cigar chomping crew cut guy. Do you want to read that part?
I don't have that. I have. I'll read the very end of the chapter as a masterpiece. But so go ahead.
Says, it doesn't get any rawer than this. It takes a special kind of man to do something like this. But if you have the stones, we've got the job for you. So he goes from just the bumbling, there he is, to all of a sudden to that.
Yeah, so he gets the job offer of his life from the, they'll eat your eyes like jujubes.
Right.
We're not in Kansas anymore. And our hero responds, I've always wanted to do something like this. I was offered this a couple of years ago, but I turned it down. I didn't think it was for me. What? However, I never in 1,000 years thought I would ever do it for real. That's because you turned it down.
Yeah.
And then he says, well, think it over, Mr. Braemar. The guy was just saying he would never in 1,000 years thought he could do something like that. Why don't you just close the damn deal?
It is just a masterclass. 4 different sentences. They all contradict each other. He's always wanted to do this. He was offered it a couple of years ago, but turned it down because he didn't think it was for him. But he never in 1,000 years thought he would ever do it for real, even though he had been offered. This is the second time he's being offered the job. A beautiful, woman is like, I'd really like to go on a date with you, Then, a day later, I'd really like to do it again. I never thought this would happen to me.
Well, remember, this is the man who was bored with his UFO research. So
True. Yeah.
He's got a lot to think about. But that's the end of, I hope that's the end of chapter 4. Now I have to reach for my actual hard copy to make sure it is.
Oh, yeah, that is the end of chapter 4, essentially. Chapter 5. The big one picks up after that, but I think we should probably do some fanfic. Say, you wouldn't be surprised by whatever he might throw at you in the other 2/3 of this book. So we'll see how you do.
All right.
So, number 1. Anyway, so by the way, if this is your first time listening, this is our signature segment, Real or Fanfic. We are going to read 5 segments of either moon people from later in the book or from fanfic that our listeners have created on their own. And Mike is going to try to guess which one is which.
And I forget what we should have tallied at the end of the last one.
Shadow Moon?
Shadow Moon.
Yeah, someone has sent me a... Brother, I don't know if he's updated it since then, but someone has been keeping track of the batting averages. Okay. If you are listening, sir, send those in, please. Otherwise, you might have already done it. I will see what that last document was. But essentially, they have been a close to 50% hit rate. So we're throwing darts blindfolded. Although Shadow Moon, I feel like was easier. I feel like
yeah. Well, we'll see. Let's find out.
All right. So number 1. I'm just going to say, I'm going to read to you the way they are written. So,
okay.
Parentheses, David. Does Zeus 2 do the same things? Parentheses, Lieutenant Kraft. Yes, like the Zeus you used before, but the Zeus 2 is a more advanced version of the Zeus program we use on Lunar Base 1. Lunar Base 2 does not have Zeus 2 yet, and so Lunar Base 2 uses Zeus. Parentheses, David. Can I try Zeus 2? Parentheses, Lieutenant Kraft. Of course, he said as he put on a friendly grin. parentheses David. Zeus 2, what is the time? Zeus 2 answered that it is 3 o'clock. David.
Well, yeah, hard out of the gate.
Yeah.
Obviously could be nice and dryly done. I'm going to say maybe the smile that he put on his face was maybe a little on the nose. So I'm going to say that's fanfic.
Okay. Number 2. I need to know how many casualties they have. Also get me a status report on our ship section, Lieutenant, parentheses Lieutenant Courtney. Yes, sir. Suddenly there was a massive explosion on the Galumpa. It looked like the Archons blew away a quarter section of the Galumpa. It started to drift and the Galumpa stopped using its weapons. The other Archon ships just kept slamming the Galumpa with a barrage of their weapons. It looked like the end of the Galumpa.
What the hell is a Galumpa? Oompa Loompa. Well, I don't know, man. Do I bite on Galumpa? I'm going to say it's real.
Okay. Number 3. Did you see me up there, Chiral? Parentheses, Chiral. Yes, David. You were on all the networks. You were on the radio, the TV, and the Zeus. We watched the whole thing on the Zeus here in the restaurant on Earth. Parentheses, David. Wow! You watched the whole thing on the Zeus here on the restaurant on Earth?
That's it?
Yep, that's it.
I'm going to say that's fanfic.
All right. What's number 4? On one side of the table, there was Admiral Benson and Commander Tice, then Captain Bramer, Dr. King, and 2 of our biggest security officers we had. On the other side, Captain Tudmoke and his men. Then the Admiral said, "This is such a great honor for us at this historical meeting. We are sorry if you don't like our food. We didn't really know what to serve, so we put a little bit of everything out. If you have any questions, just ask. We hope you like it." Captain Tudmoke then said, "Thank you, Admiral, for your extra consideration. We eat about the same things you do. We have been watching your television for about 50 of your years. A lot of our little animals are similar to yours. We are like you in many ways. For instance, some of us eat some meats, and some of us don't."
Tudmoke?
Tudmoke.
Oh, my God. Well, let's see. Jake Tudmoke, I think, came in, got a silver medal in the 76 Olympic.
The theme emerges.
That's just pure speculation about these upcoming moon people. So I'm going to say it's fanfic.
Okay. And the final one. He went right to sleep that night because he was so tired from making love with Chiral all night. He wasn't even thinking about the shuttle launch until the next morning. But when he woke up Monday morning and put on his new captain's uniform and he looked in the mirror and realized what he was doing. Then they helped him put on his flight suit and got in the shuttle. He was terrified almost at the point of shock. All he kept saying was, "What did I get myself into?" He also kept asking his shuttle captain, "Captain Briggs, is everything all right?" All the way up to 0855, and Captain Briggs just kept saying, "All systems are a go." David looked over at Admiral Benson, and he looked as cool as a cucumber. Then he couldn't say a word the rest of the launch. There was a liftoff. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition full thrust. David griped the launch chair with a grip of steel. Then, as the shuttle started sounding like thunder and a lot of vibration, Captain Briggs said, "Happy Halloween, NASA," and we started to move upward. It was looking like a perfect launch.
Well, I mean, as much as I hope it's a Uncle Dale no moment, I'm going to say that that's fanfic.
All right. So let's just recap. Number 1. That was, does Zeus 2 do the same thing? Of course, Zeus 2 answered it's 3 o'clock. You said fanfic. That is fanfic written by Patrick.
Whew, okay.
Number 2, that was the Galumpa. The Galumpa, it looked like the end of the Galumpa. You said real. That is real from later in the book.
Oh, hey.
I don't know if you're probably too distracted by the Galumpa, but did you notice that the guy giving the update is Lieutenant Courtney?
Wait, who's that?
Well, Dale M. Courtney.
No. Oh, God.
Self-insert. Wow. Number 3 is we watched the whole thing on the Zeus here in the restaurant on Earth. You said that was fanfic. That is fanfic written by Chris.
Woo!
I guess that little might have.
I know it's yeah.
How did that tip its hand?
I don't know.
All right, your instincts. Number four was the meeting with Captain Tudmoke, where we are like you in many ways. For instance, some of us eat some meats and some of us don't. You said fanfic. That is real from later in the book.
Oh, my God.
Captain Tudmoke is one of the, what are they called? Pralines?
Powlines, I think.
Powlines, yes. Yeah. So we have that to look forward to. Number 5, he went right to sleep because he was so tired from making love with Chiral. 9, 5, 8, 9, the whole countdown. Griping the launch chair with the grip of steel. You said fanfic. That is real, my friend.
What?
I just went looking for that, and I know that was a long one, but that is just so jam-packed of utter nonsense.
What?
Happy Halloween, NASA.
So he has a date? The date he closes the deal?
It's these. He says, we haven't talked much over the many 5 or 6 years I've been coming in here ordering the 222, but we want to go to. And keep in mind, we're about to learn where he's going to take her on that date when he gets
spectacular,
so busy, so tired from the lovemaking that he is.
Wow.
That's after. So,
my God.
I love this book. Is all I have to say.
Wow. Well, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, it's a lot to look forward to.
So, Mrs. Courtney takes half an hour, reads this book, and goes, Dale?
David's honking the horn with waving the Red Lobster gift certificates in the out in the driveway.
Oh, boy. All right.
Nothing like Lobster Fest to get the motor running.
Man, I thought I had it. I was looking good for the first couple there.
Yeah, we got a couple other fanfics sent in, but I just went looking in the book, and I pretty much scrolled just randomly, looked at the page, and was like, yeah, that'll work.
Wow.
So delightful. But chapter 5, the big one, picks up mid conversation from the last chapter with the job offer, essentially.
Yes, and this has one of the more curious lines where I puzzled over this and I cannot find the solution. So I ask the listeners to help me out here.
Okay.
He's talking to Kim. He couldn't believe it either. Kim. He also offered me the position of first science officer aboard the Lunar Base 1. Wow, that is cool, said Kim. What did you tell him? Oh, sorry. Let me skip down. Hey, maybe we shouldn't tell anyone about this all this yet. Okay. Gauche, replied Kim. What in the name of hell does that mean?
So I have a theory. Yeah.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So this whole exchange, he says he gets offered the thing. Wow, that is cool. So it's very Rod from Birdemic, closing the big fish exchange. Gauche, I came back to it like I read 4 more pages and I was like, you know what? He says we shouldn't tell anyone about this yet. Gauche, replied Kim. I think it's gotcha. I think it is
my God.
Somehow it is a gotcha. I mean, right? Because that's all he's replying like, sure, I understand. Like, I'm on board. Gotcha. And whatever system he's using is it handwriting recognition, vocal text to speech, or a speech to text, interpreted gotcha as gauche.
Wow.
Like a fashion faux pas, like Gauche if you're not reading along.
Like, yes, the French word for left, gauche.
So,
well, that's a good theory. I had thought it was maybe gosh, like he misspelled gosh.
Yep.
Or I couldn't. Or and then I thought, did he actually mean like that's gauche to do that?
Yeah.
But that obviously makes no sense. But again, this is Dale M. Courtney, so
right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
all right. Well, yours is the leading theory, I think.
The chapter started with Bud saying, "Keep me informed." Could
Yeah, that comes back a lot.
YEHA. I was like, is he Irish? Like, could ye? Like,
right.
But I think he also meant to say, would ya? Like, would keep me like right? I don't know. Anyway,
he just
there's something going on here. There's something. Maybe he was learning Dvorak keyboard or something, and this is what resulted in all these.
So, all right. Well, the mystery of gauche might be solved. If there's any competing theories, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. You got the another one of my favorite sentences in all of literature. So I'm just going to read it as presented.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly the phone rings. It's Bud. And Bud wants an update on the flashes they're seeing, and also whether he's accepted the job. He needs to know in 2 days, because that's when the shuttle is launching to go up there. I mean, earlier we were told there were shuttle launches like 3 in the past week. So it seems like they're going up there regularly, but for whatever reason, David needs to be on this one that's leaving in 2 days.
Yes. But then we get to one of my favorite themes in the final chapters of our reading here, sandwich making and eating. When he got there, okay, all right, I'll see you in the morning. That's the end of a conversation. No indication that there's no more talking. David went ahead and left and went to his house in New Smyrna Beach.
An A-plus place name, by the way. I
Yes.
mean, I'm sure it's lovely, but it is a funny place name.
When he got there, he made himself a sandwich, sat down, and told his computer to turn on his TV. The sandwich, that's just the introduction of the sandwich.
Yes.
Because he starts to, his inner monologue. I'm sure you have notes on his inner monologue.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic.
It's amazing. Why don't you go ahead?
I wonder if I could just pick up and go. Man, being a captain on a base station would be really cool. There is a 10-year commitment, though. Boy, that's a long time. All of my students would probably think that it would be cool to have their teacher on a base station. Imagine the utter indifference that you and your classmates would have ever had if one of your teachers was like, I'm going to go to I'm going to leave for 10 years to go on a base station. Like, he's never met a high schooler. But I guess you said, these are like Mickey Rooney. Damn it. God damn it.
Yes.
Damn it.
Oh, begin the memes.
The memes.
Begin the memes.
Edit that out.
No, obviously that stays in.
But yeah, so I guess they are gee whiz, so they might think it is pretty cool to have a teacher, leaving.
But there's well-established bases up there that everyone points at and laughs because they look like toilet paper tubes already,
True.
right?
True.
So when you say, like, I'm leaving for the base station, someone will go, yeah, 6 of my cousins are up there already.
Right.
I assume, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's colonies up there.
Yeah, people live up there and are exploit. You're going to need to repopulate your base station as you travel to Pluto over the course of 100 years. So there's probably thousands of people. But also, hey kids, I told you I'm going up to the base station 1. Don't you think that's cool? We're going to die in 180 days. The asteroid's going to hit our sun, and everyone is dying in panics. Like, no, we don't think it's cool. You son of a bitch. What?
Yeah, our family is huddling together, and we're saying prayers, and we're reconnecting with but the inner monologue, which is obviously this is supposed to be like Hamlet or something, contemplating life itself and what he's going to do with his life. His inner monologue ends with, I think I'll eat my sandwich and go to class and get a few things together. So. Whither man, who are we? What is my purpose in life? I think I'll eat my sandwich and go to class.
So he made the sandwich, sat down, told the thing to turn on his TV, and then it's sort of he has his sandwich in both hands, about to raise to his mouth, and then it sort of zooms up to show his Homer Simpson inside of his brain as he just sits there holding the sandwich, and then it ends with him thinking, I think I'll eat this, and then.
Well, now look, he thought he was going to eat a sandwich, right?
Yeah,
but that's no guarantee, and so an audience is left hanging there. So luckily, he takes care of that. David ate his sandwich and went back to school. So thank you for filling in that detail. We were worried.
Yeah. I think this is part of his internal monologue. Maybe he's saying it to a student, but he says, I do love space and everything in it. I always have.
He's a big dark matter fan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But then he goes to Cheryl's restaurant, and evidently it struck me. I mean, a lot has happened, but it's still the same day as this started on. With the panic and Steve Sanders or whatever announcing that the meteor is coming. But he says to Cheryl, "You're not going to believe what all happened to me yesterday." Oh, what happened? Well, yesterday NASA called me and needed me to help with the meteor, so I took the job. Then they went ahead and offered me another job on the USS Lunar Base 1 as the first science officer. So you guess Cheryl's response as someone has just told you that they've been upgraded from high school astronomy teacher to NASA astronomer, and then that they are going into space for 10 years.
Oh, my reaction would be like, but you're the loser guy who drives this Chevy Lumina in here with the broken door handles, and you've got a bungee strap on the back of it, and you wear black socks with your Birkenstocks, and you have a crappy mustache.
Wow, are you going to take it? She doesn't even miss a beat. There's not.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions about what happened since I made your last 222.
And that's I think that's where that chapter ends. It's another one that ends midway through a sentence or a conversation.
So wait, though, he goes back to school after everyone has left and fires up the Zeus, right?
Okay. Yeah, I didn't take any notes on that.
I think that's what the timeline is. And then he goes and stops at Cheryl's, and she says, "Do you want your regular 222? You bet," said David. So he ate a sandwich, went to school, drove back in the evening, and ate a breakfast.
Yeah, whatever that might be.
Okay.
Great. Well, yeah. So yeah, he gets because in my next note of the first chapter, he grabbed the paper and ate his breakfast.
Okay.
Wow. So I guess there was time. I guess there was, because he does say yesterday they called me, so he might have eaten a sandwich, gone to school, come back home, and went to bed. But there's no real reason to. I don't think he's trying to pull a Christopher Nolan time on us here.
There is. I'm sorry. There's a one short sentence transition to this whole madness. So he covered his bases. He's a good writer. I take everything back. Sorry.
So the next chapter 6, the crew, starts with David grabbed the paper and ate his breakfast. It didn't take long before he was ready to go. He told Cheryl he would see her tomorrow night at 7 and they would go out and eat somewhere. Cheryl had a big smile on her face and said, "That sounds great." So a big smile, but not sexy, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
She can de-sex it at will, I guess. She has that power. There's another theme that emerges is the length of time to prepare and eat his breakfast.
Okay.
It is important that be short for some reason. He always talks about it didn't take long before his breakfast was ready to go. He ate it quickly. That comes up again and again.
Right.
So he's just wolfing down 222s, and she is just loving this man.
Yes, yeah. The big sexy smiles as he's, greasy eggs are spilling on his lap and stuff.
And so now we get the curious Halloween thing again. The only thing I do not like about everything is that my shuttle goes off on October 31st, which is Halloween. This he's talking to Kim, his assistant.
Yeah.
Kim smiled some and said, "You're right." Wrong, of course. "I never thought of that. I think that would bother me too." No, it wouldn't.
Yeah. It's
no.
Unless you're one of those, if you were planning a big group costume with people and realized you were going to have to drop out of your role as Stitch from the Disney universe or something, and
or
you let everyone down.
You're like a druid reenactor or something, and you're deep into neo-paganism or something, and you're all going to meet at what?
Right.
There is no reason to be bothered. The only thing we think about, Halloween is on Thursday. Are we going to get any people? No, we won't. I mean, it changes nothing about your life. There's nothing.
It's very peculiar. Yeah, because again, there's a horror movie series called Halloween and one called Friday the 13th, and he might have just got them confused because no one associates Halloween with axe murders. And in many cities, the night before is the one where they do all the mischief.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so that's where I first realized that the Kindle doesn't use the parentheses nonsense. But this is Kim showing him the layout of the space station that he's going to be living on. So he's decided to accept this job without knowing any of this. It is actually a pretty elaborate space station. It has everything on board that a small city has, including a couple of bars on board. Kim skips right to that. And also a couple of shopping malls, a basketball court. There is even a small farm on board. You have everything that you need. David's response, cool, I will check this out.
So his response is you getting a long email from someone in your HR department.
Yes, and using Google's auto response.
Cool. I'll check this out. Yeah, thanks.
I'm thinking back on the last vacation I took where I was like looking into, what hotel to stay at for a couple nights. And, TripAdvisor always has reviews from people who had fine experiences and people who had the worst experience of your life. So I looked at this for over an hour before I made a choice, and he's just decided to go up to 10 years on a space station and didn't even know there was a basketball court.
Right. Well, he does some due diligence. He does look at it himself. And there are some other things it has. It did have everything a city has, including a full-size hospital and staff. It also has a full-size observatory, which I cannot wait to take a look at. I will bet it is nicer than anything I am used to. So he has Zeus, which has a high-definition 80-inch screen. Like, what's the upgrade? What is he getting out of it?
It is the latest telescope, we were told multiple times. And what if someone told you, like, hey, I broke my leg, I got to go to the hospital. You'd be like, whoa, is it a full-size hospital? Like, that's not a thing. It doesn't exist. Like, what? One of those mini hospitals that they put in what used to be a Radio Shack or something? Like
there's a standard size for hospitals, and all of them fall short of the one that's on the lunar base.
And he's also very impressed by this. You can tell how excited he is. Hey, look, here these ships even have weapons. We got a laser and missiles and rockets. Wow. So I think that's probably that's going to be Chekhov's laser, missiles, and rockets, but probably just he felt the need to say that, even though I think that was in the prologue.
Well, I'll keep reading on that. It was my dumb sentence where I cheated. I put together a few sentences. She is also very nicely decorated and very classy looking too. Look here. This baby has got 5 shuttles, also armed with lasers and rockets. All of a sudden, the phone rings. He's a child. Yeah.
But the phone rings and they don't tell you who it is in the same sentence. That's garbage. But the call is from Admiral Benson, who we've just met. I guess he's a super in charge. He says, "Welcome aboard. The last shuttle takes off at 0900 on Monday morning. By the way, did you realize that Monday was Halloween?" "Yes, sir. I know. It does bother me a bit." So these are the guys, in one sentence, they're like, if you have the stones for this, you can, if you can keep your lunch down, you'll be able to. And then he's like, but it is Halloween, so I keep nervous. There might be a teenager in a Tom Brady jersey that throws an egg at your door or something.
Right. And then once again, the lax screening, though. "Are you sure you want to go?" "Oh, yes, sir. I made up my mind. There's no turning back now." "Okay, then welcome aboard." Are you physically, like, we saw your yearbook photo where you were with drama class and they had smeared you with makeup and put you in a dress. Are you in decent shape? I mean,
right? Yeah, because the astronauts are, I think, known for like being in that Neil Armstrong movie. They had him in those centrifuges, like barfing in those, and like underwater training. But they say you're going to have to be here a good 24 hours earlier for launch preparations and a quick health checkup. Yeah. So they're going to make sure about that, whether he can do the vigorous anti-G hold up, but also being like, and we'll make sure you don't have cancer or anything like that.
Right. And also he says it's at 900, so he's going to do the health check then and everything then. But he says, well, then I'll see you around 0900 Sunday for launch preparations, said Admiral Benson. So, it's a loose, we're not really uptight here in the military. Whenever you can get, see you around 0900.
Yeah, 9-ish, 0900-ish.
That's a little early for me, Admiral. Is it okay if I drift in at 9:30? Of course.
Yeah, I was just, I wasn't going to be there either.
But honest to God, this place will tear you in two. You little pink tender baby. I'll see you around 0900, give or take.
Right. But he does lapse back into that with, don't worry, I'll be there right alongside of you. That's my flight too. Great. The truth about it is I'm a little scared of that shuttle launch to the base station, especially on Halloween. But I think I will be all right after that. Good. Captain Bramer, because you and I are going on one hell of a ride Monday morning. Trick or treat. It is utterly bizarre. I mean, hey, fool us if it does come up to have some significance. But I think we should all end up going as Paulines for Halloween this year, based on the strong connection. Maybe the movie version will be the next Night Before Christmas, the next Halloween classic.
Oh yeah, played every year. He says at the end of that, "I'll show you wonders you always dreamed about." His response: "That's pretty cool, sir. I can't wait." So, okay, goodbye. David hung up the phone.
Wow.
I always appreciate the extra attention to detail there.
Yes. Well, we know in movies where they don't say goodbye or anything, we always call them out on that. So,
right.
I like this. I had just made a I guess baseless assumption that Kim Moon might have been like Korean, just because those are both like Korean family names. But Kim was watching David and walked over and said, "What's a matter you having second thoughts?" So I guess he's Italian, like he's the old school, old country Italian. It's written right there.
He sort of leaned back and he held the pizza pie out in front of him, and he kind of did that rocking back and forth walk and said, "What's the matter you?"
Their conversation had a truly amazing exchange. I just can't believe how fast everything going in my life. Yeah, I know what you mean. It isn't every day you leave Earth and go out into space.
And then, as a parenthetical, Bud offered that other assistant science officer job on Lunar Base 1 to me. This is Kim. So, hey, that's great. Are you going to take it? I don't know. I'm sure thinking about it.
I don't know. I'm still thinking about it.
I got to work the oven. Every day I make the pasta by hand.
But he says, I'm thinking about it. I just might. The pay is great. So once again, they can't even provide us with the, $200 million figure.
They say the pay is great, but they have not heard. So, there are rumors that the pay is great is all you can really say. That leads into Chapter 7. The
final chapter of this week, yeah. So Chapter 7 is Fate Steps In. I think this also resumes with their same conversation. David and Kim are talking. He's like, "I guess I'm ready for a little excitement in my life before I get old and die," replied David. "You only live once, you know." "Yeah, I know what you mean." So both of them are talking about going into space for 10 years, but it sounds like they're debating, should we, spring for the blue cheese topper on our ribeye? It's $5 extra. Hey man, you only live once.
Yeah. I'm not going to die without trying this steak. Maybe I won't finish the whole thing, but yeah.
Yeah, or just
also,
walking
he's
by
45.
the roulette wheel. Yeah, right.
Pretty grim. A little excitement in my life before I get old. You were a UFO researcher for the government. You were too bored by it.
Right.
But Kim, one of his reasons for sort of tilting him towards going is, "I only have my father to look after. He can take care of himself. He don't really need me." Well, then why are you looking after him?
Yet again, there's so many sentences that you read that just you have to do the I after.
Bizarre.
He says, "I'm only doing this because I know I will never get another chance as good as this one that pays so well with the rank of captain. I feel like I've been given a second chance in life or lived 2 different lives in 2 different dimensions. He will never get another chance as good as this one, even though he has literally been offered the job before. He's the most in-demand guy for this job that's ever existed." And then, I'll just read that second part again. "I feel like I've been given a second chance in life or lived 2 different lives in 2 different dimensions." I don't know what to make of that.
I don't know. Yeah. So once more, we have sandwich eating.
Yes.
David went home the whole time. He looked like he was in a trance or a state of euphoria. Oh, okay. Are those very similar?
I don't know. At least he's not in a state of panic like every other driver.
When he got home, he ate a quick sandwich and went to bed. He slept like a baby. And then Bud calls him, and we get the same kind of conversation. "Good morning. How's it going?" Pretty good." "Is everything still on?" "You bet," replied Bud. So he tells him what to prepare, and he says, "You might want to say goodbye to your friends or pack all your stuff you want to take with you. So it's one or the other choice.
Yes.
But in addition, just bring it with you Sunday morning when you come for lunch. So pack all your stuff with you or say goodbye to people, one or the other, but bring all your stuff with you.
Right. It would be a early computer programming language that would cause a loop meltdown in your computer science class. But so I mean, do top NASA scientists need to be told to pack the stuff they want to bring with them? I don't know. I guess some of them are a little on their own wavelength type of thing. So.
But also all your stuff. So is he bringing like a pod with him in bikes and lawn equiment? I mean, what? Yeah. Bring all your stuff. There's no rules about what I can bring.
His rowing machine.
His scuba gear, his fishing equipment.
But then, so he says, don't come in today. It's Saturday. I'll see you tomorrow on Sunday. And then David hung up the phone and got dressed. Well, I guess I will go eat some breakfast, go to the school, and say goodbye to everybody. Who the hell is going to be at the school on Saturday?
I don't know what is going on here. This is where I had to say, and we've already alluded to this ends spectacularly, but this paragraph, are we sure this isn't a put on? We sure this is not a fake? David sat down in his usual seat, and Carol came out when she seen David come in. Hey, stranger, how's it going? I've been keeping an eye out looking for you this morning. Are we still on for supper tonight? David answered, you bet. I've had nothing else on my mind since we talked about it. In this time period between when they talked about going to dinner, he's going to the moon. But this is the only thing that's been on his mind. Anyway, I thought we might eat at Red Lobster in Daytona.
Perfect.
Are we sure this is a real human being?
It's truly perfect. And then he says, I thought we might eat at Red Lobster in Daytona. Wait, I don't even know if you like seafood. Don't worry, I love seafood and I love Red Lobster. They have great food there. I haven't eaten there in about a year. This is going to be great.
It's very hard to believe, but I mean, by all accounts, this is a human being.
It is, and a human being who, Red Lobster to them is the pinnacle of dining, and I guess it is. I mean, you still see ads, there's all you can eat shrimp and stuff. Like, people must be going in there. It's been a long time for me, but
I told you about when I moved years ago to San Diego, and I met a guy. I'm trying to keep it anonymous. Okay. Who just said, "Hey, you're new to town. My family was not in yet. I was out in advance," and he said, "I'll take you to a San Diego restaurant." Oh, awesome! There's obviously
George's at the Cove. Yeah,
there's sushi. There's
Donovan's.
There's Mexican food everywhere. There's Japanese food. There's Korean restaurants. We drive a long way, and we go to El Torito. Which is a chain,
on the border type of
a chain Mexican restaurant of the
flair.
It's
variety.
Yeah, it's okay. But I was just shocked. Like, I thought I got out of the car and I was like, very funny. Like, I love this place. They know me here. No.
You can expand upon this guy just a little bit, can't you? This was not like a guy from the next door neighbor or the church or something.
I guess I could expand upon it. No, I can't.
Okay,
we'll leave it there.
Anyway. So they kudos to the person on the 372 Facebook group who looked up the two Red Lobsters in Daytona. There is one, they said, that has a ocean view and one that has just a view of the highway leading up to it. And so they speculated that he's the kind of guy, he's not springing for the slightly higher prices at the ocean view one. He's going to the strip mall one.
Oh yeah, and she hadn't been there for a year. So yeah, it was definitely the strip mall.
But she says, "Do you want the usual 222? I would love the 222. Thank you." And I assume it comes out quick, but he noticed his breakfast was perfect looking. Then he said, "This breakfast looks good. Thank you." Chiral had a big smile and said, "Anytime." David went at it. So he's like a cookie monster, I'm guessing, just sort of the way he shovels it all in as Cheryl smiles sexily.
You mostly saw, the bits and pieces sort of flying up into the air, and that continues on. When he was almost done with his breakfast, period, Chiral came out and sat down with David. David said, "This breakfast was delicious. Thank you very much. I'm glad you liked it." That was another thing I read.
You order it every day. You had better damn well like it.
So on some days, it must be subpar. I think it's implying that she likes him so much that she made an especially good 222.
Right, yeah, just to sort of set the stage for their romantic post Cheddar Bay biscuit encounter.
Right. God, I can't wait.
But then it sort of wraps up, but it wraps up with a fantastic patented DMC way, unless you got anything else.
No, I don't. Just that, I have one more thing, but it's small. Okay. Go ahead.
Did you make up your mind about the base station job? Yes, I did. I'm going to do it. But what I didn't know was that I'm going to go so quick. How quick? Chiral asked. I have to show up at 0900 Sunday morning. I like that he uses military speak to her for that. 0900 Sunday morning for flight preparations and a quick health checkup. Then we launch Monday morning on Halloween at 0900. Wow, that is quick. End of chapter. I mean, just from her perspective, I guess you could do, go on a date with this guy, but clearly there's no future in this matter for her. She's just going for the free shrimp and the romp afterwards.
Well, and plus, she's right near NASA. There are other fish in the sea, for God's sake.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like she's not like working the diner by the coal mine where you just get these, soot-faced guys coming every day. She's got PhDs trailing in every day.
Right, and in addition, she's got Top Gun dudes coming in. Guys who look like young Scott Glenn, just ripped and lean and just physical
chopping
specimens.
Their teeth at her. Scott Glenn?
Yes, Scott Glenn is the guy who played, not Neil Armstrong. Who did he play?
Oh,
he's an actor. Anyway.
So you didn't give John Glenn the wrong name.
I did not give John Glenn the wrong name.
Damn it!
Damn it! John Glenn. Yeah, when he was young, I guess. But Scott Glenn is more like a chiseled jaw, tall, lean actor guy. So
all right. Well, yeah, that wraps up the tremendous first 7 chapters of Moon People. It did not disappoint in any way. It exceeded expectations, I would say.
Holy cow! Yeah, this is amazing, and the mystery of the different versions of it is man, it only adds to the magic for me.
Yeah, that's another Armada comparison. Then remember that had the dodecahedron versus the decahedron in the two different versions.
Yeah, but who's doing it and why? That's the puzzle.
I don't know. These lateral moves that in no way improve it.
Should we get him on the horn and just do a show with him? I don't know if I could pull it off, but
I don't know. But I did. I was probably like 2 chapters into this before I was like, we're gonna read the sequel to this, aren't we? Well, I think it's time we should do some dumb sentences and some emails. Let's do dumb sentences first.
A sentence begins with a capital letter. A capital letter is a letter that's big. A capital letter is not a small letter. A capital letter is big, big, big. A sentence ends with a period or an exclamation. Or
no, not in Dale M. Courtney's case. It does not always end with a period.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What do you have?
Tremendous turnout from everybody. Thank you for sending them in. We've probably covered a lot of these, just they're so good. But, we'll read a few of them anyway. Christopher, David smiled and said, I don't know about being the best, but I do teach astronomy in high school and have been into astrology for 20 years. Hello, NASA.
Yeah, exactly.
This one is from Theodore. He says, this is from the prologue. They also have shields that are a liquid that turns into a solid mass as hard as 4 inches of steel when exposed to the cold of space. And he has a lot of questions about this, but says, why do the shields work this way instead of being invisible force fields like every other spaceship shield in every other work of science fiction? I'm looking forward to seeing how those are employed in the story. I bet it's masterful. This one's from Alex. I feel like I've been giving a second chance in life or lived 2 different lives in 2 different dimensions. It's I didn't even pick up on the living. The giving the first time I read that, but it is a masterclass. Aaron, before he was a teacher, he used to work for the government for UFO research. About 5 years ago, he didn't like that job that much because he was always bored. The construction, the grammar, the nonchalant way we're told the government research job was boring. It's perfect. This is from Paul. This is his first ever dumb sentence of the week submission. He said, "It isn't every day you leave Earth and go out into space." I agree. That was one of my favorites too. This is from Joel, a Patreon supporter. He says, I'm going to read it the way it's written, which is one of the base stations that is almost completed. He says, rare is the book that administers its own reading comprehension exam. This is from Paige. Suddenly, everybody went ahead and ate their breakfast. And she has a little explanation. I chose this because I'm also a novice writer, and I've occasionally found myself doing the same thing, to use a Kleinian phrase, throwing in adjectives when I'm not sure how to start a sentence. It's frequently unnecessary and can become a crutch. Picking suddenly out of the adjectives book to describe the act of eating breakfast, though, transcends weak writing experience and goes right into never heard words before territory.
Genius, I'd say. It's the word she was looking for.
This is from Philip, a Patreon supporter as well. Infrared, 2 words, both capitalized, was showing there was large amounts of radiation all around the area.
Oh, that was, I think, my other example of something's going on with his inputting process or something.
Ha!
You don't mix up infrared and infrared, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking at it. So, yeah, that's maybe another clue to he's using voice input.
But infrared is like nuclear, right? Or nuclear. That's just like something that people will say wrong without realizing.
Let's say it wrong, but not. You don't think that it's 2 words and one is infer and the other is red.
Right. From Janelle, the whole HOLE class made a wow sound and they all said about the same time, cool. This one is from David, who's a Patreon supporter as well. So is Janelle. David turned to Chiral with a smile, and Chiral said, 222. He said, you gotta love the romantic dialogue. It worked. Hey, it worked.
Apparently.
Yeah. Amber, I've got to go to the office to get some forms. This sentence literally made me laugh out loud. It was so random. We never did to know what those forms were supposed to do. They were just a ruse, I guess. Land submitted, it doesn't get any rawer than this. It takes a special kind of man to do something like this. But if you have the stones, we've got the job for you. Dave submitted a basketball court. So it's odd capitalization. Check, because ball is capitalized. Splitting basketball into 2 words. Why the hell not? I love this book so far. Richard submitted, however, I never in 1,000 years thought I ever would do it for real. And he also he wrote, I believe, 8 question marks and 8 exclamation marks, just because, as we pointed out in the previous sentence, he was offered this exact job before.
And turned him down cold.
Joe submitted, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I can't believe this. That was the one that I sent to Lauren to let her know what we were doing. And she just, again, can't believe what we were in for. And last was Josh, who submitted, this is people in the diner. Then everyone realized who David was and what he did for a living. Which is, that's sort of what happened in Jaws, right? But it was after Quint said, y'all know me, know how I make my living. And
right.
then everyone realized who Quint was and what he did for a living. He was going to kill the shark.
Right.
So that's our sentences. Let me see what I've got. I think we hit every single one of mine, but...
Well, I don't think I read this. I read part of it. So when he's deciding on the job with... so this is cheating because it's a couple sentences. With the guy at NASA. This is the second job, right? He says, well, you got it, sir, said David. I'll call you in the next 2 days, or I'll be here and I'll tell you. Then Bud said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and go. I have some stuff I have to get down.
Wow.
So,
wow. Folksy, or just a sentence that didn't end as the author was hoping it would as he started it?
I don't know. I love that, though. I'll either call you or I'll just be here and tell you.
Sir, this is NASA. We have, much more. No, but I have that 3-day pass you gave me, so. Mine, I think we covered them both. Suddenly the phone rings, it's Bud. And I also had David ate his sandwich and went back to school. I mean, yeah, I hope there's some good. I hope they've got a Jimmy John's on the base station mall food court. So. Oh
yeah, who's he going to call out there? Because it's like a whole city. So yeah, right. There's franchises.
And now we have a few emails we'll get to just because people.
All right, steal away.
All right, this is we got a trifecta right off the bat from people. I think you'll sense the theme as we go on. This is from Brian. I'm currently reading Paradise Lost, which some would call a better work of literature than Moon People. But check this out. Paradise Lost was written before punctuation marks were standardized. Milton does not use them. He instead marks the beginnings and ends of speeches with phrases like, Satan began to speak, and after the speech, and then he stopped speaking. Compare this to Moon People, wherein the author evidently does not trust his readers to understand that a phone call is taking place without seeing firm evidence of the hello and the goodbye. You pointed that out earlier. What I'm saying here is that Dale Courtney is a lot like John Milton. And now we have one from Lucas. I have a theory for why the writing sounds so childish. Courtney often uses what I'll call weak qualifiers. Instead of saying very bad or even just bad, a character will say sort of bad or kind of bad or pretty bad. This has the effect of making the prose feel more colloquial and wishy-washy. J.D. Salinger used this technique in Catcher in the Rye to evoke the first-person perspective of a child. However, it is odd to see it used here by an omniscient narrator.
Oh, wow. So already compared to Milton and Salinger. This
Yep.
is...
And here's John. So, just like Cormac McCarthy, it appears that Dale M. Courtney doesn't believe in using quotation marks around dialogue. Fascinating. And yes, I'm comparing Dale M. Courtney's writing style to Cormac McCarthy's because I find it equally annoying in both instances. So, yeah, that's some heavy hitters right off the bat.
Would you maybe also reach for, Hemingway with the sandwich eating stuff? Then he made a sandwich, then he ate a sandwich, kind of.
It is sort of, no extra words except when he uses many extra words.
Right.
So this one is from Joel. Here are a few things in the first 7 chapters of Moon People about which I have questions. Why are the space stations that orbit the Earth, travel to planets, and never seem to go to the moon called Lunar Bases 1, 2, and 3? Good question. And there are evidently some Moon People coming. So he also says, how hard up is NASA in 2048 that they have to offer hefty salaries to high school science teachers to man their missions? Yeah, there wasn't even a hand wave away explanation for like all the other guys got sick or something. I guess one guy was in a car accident.
I mean, he lived down the street.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. He could be there by Sunday.
Diner,
yeah. And then, given David's usual order of the 222, how long is the menu, Chiral? I guess that could be another explanation. It could be one of those places where you order by the number. He does say, there is one element, however, I do not question. If I'm having one last evening out with a lady I love before I'm shot off into space for the next 10 years, there's only one destination on my list. Red Lobster.
Well, it's going to be mine from now on. Apparently, it does the job big time.
yeah, no kidding.
Seal the deal.
Red Lobster's going to be like, noticed an uptick in high school proms coming here from sweaty guys in rented tuxedos. Josh wrote this one. This is going to not make a lot of sense to, I'm guessing, some people, but I think you and I will enjoy it. Moon People is truly a gem. The first chapter has an amazing Guy from Harlem moment in it.
Oh, what would that be?
The following section about a planet-killing meteor should really be read out loud by a shouting, plaid-suited gangster. So I think he's employing Harry Dubald. We're not sure of anything yet. What we do know is the meteor is coming from the direction of the constellation of Scorpio at the tail end, heading this way, going approximately 60,000 miles an hour, and it is a planet killer. We repeat, please do not panic. Now we resume your regular programming.
Wow, very good, Harry there. Yeah,
we're not. He says we're not sure of anything yet. Really, next chapters will no doubt explain how big the meteor's muscles are and how the meteor fancies wearing big bands on his muscles. So yeah, I guess that is the nobody's ever seen him type of thing.
What is his greeting? Is it young lady?
Yeah, good looking.
Good looking.
I got 2 reasons a meteor's not going to hit the Earth. One, well, it's kind of serious. It's going to hit the sun, and we're all going to die in a horrible fiery crash. But if you like Guy from Harlem, we're working on another movie that can't help but invite comparisons to it now. I think they took place in the same filthy paneled offices and used the same fight choreographer.
Oh boy, man, the fights. Woo.
What else do we got here? This one is from Triss, who is a listener and Patreon supporter. They are just caught up with the podcast, so I'm looking forward to trying my hand at writing fanfic and sending in some thoughts, dumb sentences, etc. But I've started reading Moon People, and I get the sense the author really knows his stuff when it comes to the secret government business and protocol. Yes, according to his bio on Amazon, he was an advisor to 2 U.S. presidents starting in 2007. So since I'm a poli-sci student, this, of course, immediately piqued my interest. But because I'm a skeptical sort, I went digging on the dark web, good instinct, to see if I could find out anything more about him or his work in the White House. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything by myself, but my inquiries were directed by a certain hacker named Dina Hope, the DDT connections from Maine Strong.
Yeah, of course.
She has managed to hack her way into the White House databanks many times and was willing to share with me some top-secret correspondence from advisor Courtney to then-President Obama. Well, I mean, we all remember Dina Hope committed numerous felonies and treasonous acts, so I hope this doesn't come back to bite us. But he says, I hope this document proves without a shadow of a doubt the influence Dale M. Courtney has had on American foreign policy, which is why I'm entrusting you with it. It says, memorandum for Barack Obama. Barack is spelled wrong. President of the United States, also Commander-in-Chief from Dale M. Courtney, political troubleshooter and strategist, also foreign diplomat, consultant on foreign policies, consultant on economics, advisor to the president, promoter of world peace, astrologer, self-taught chiropractor, avid fisherman, scuba diver. Subject, Civil War in Libya. Libya spelled wrong. Dear Mr. President, I think we should join the Civil War in Libya. Now this would be good because they are nice people and their president is bad. They don't like their president and would appreciate our help. We can send them some war ships with some planes on top of the war ships. There is also, they're spelled wrong, a lot of oil in Libya. If we help the Libyans to get rid of their president, everyone will all put a smile on their face and they will give our companies their oil for a good price. Then our companies can turn their oil into fuel for our cars and factories. This will be real good for America. So, I mean, it's on official letterhead. He sent the, wow. It had like a seal and everything. So.
Well, real or fanfic, I rate that as real. So.
And one last one. This is just about some math, because we know that this math is going to be inaccurate, but this is from Paul. In case you're interested, I did some quick calculations. The meteor is traveling at 69,000 miles an hour. Settle down, Dale. And is climbing in speed at a rate of 1,000 miles an hour every 6 hours. Steve Slater also tells us it should be here in 178 days. If we're to assume this acceleration is linear, and of course we would, my back of a napkin calculations have it that it would be traveling at 780,000 miles an hour when it reaches us. This would also mean it is 1.815 billion miles away currently, or roughly 3 times the furthest Jupiter is ever away from Earth. Feel free to check my calculations, as I feel my brain might be irreparably damaged from tonight's reading, but it appears astronomy will make great strides in the next 28 years. He says, alternately, if Zeus is to be believed, it is 3.244 billion kilometers away, about 2 billion miles. So I guess that's the math does not hold up to scrutiny, as we all expected it might not.
I blame Zeus. Just give Zeus a chance to warm up.
Yeah, exactly. By the time he gets back in 10 years, it's going to be ready to do some accurate calculations. So thanks to everyone who emailed, everyone who sent in dumb sentences, all the Patreon supporters we called out. We appreciate them. I got word that the dark web editor you had recorded some more of their thoughts.
Oh,
for
good.
DLM. So I think we might post those whole things to Patreon, so to get their whole critique of that from an editor's perspective.
All right. Well, I think that
thank you so much.
It up. Thank you, Dale M. Courtney. Thank you, Patreon people. Thanks for everyone who listens. This is 372 pages. We'll never get back.
Going to get a quick sandwich.